Okay. Calling. That's me.
There I am.
There's Alexa. There's Phil. Cool. Hi, guys.
Hey.
Hello.
How annoying is it to set up the Skype call like that? Is it just like the worst?
No, I just hit play. I just hit record and it does it.
Gotcha.
But
I was just wondering because we're scared that Google Hangouts is going away and we might have to start using Skype and we're not happy about it.
Okay, so I just bought a call recorder. So this is a great advertisement for callrecorder.com or whatever this is.
This is sponsored by callrecorder.com.
Yes. I'll do like a Johnny Fairplay style like advertisement in the middle of it. And I'm not going to
5 minutes.
Yeah. I'm not going to edit any of this. Like, this is just going to go on YouTube because I'm trying this thing where I don't believe in editing, and especially knowing, I have all this, like, PTSD from editing, like any reality TV person has. So there's going to be no editing. But anyway, so I wanted to, so thank you.
I never edit, so that's fine.
Okay. And also, editing's tough. Editing takes a long time.
Yeah, it's not
very painstaking.
Yeah, it's a long, it's so easy to film something. It's so much more to edit it. But anyway, that's not why I called you guys here. I wanted to thank you guys. I want to thank you guys for taking the time to talk to me about this, because this is a really weird thing that happened during Survivor. This was shortly after Survivor Micronesia. I was like hometown hero. Like Erik was the Survivor boy, so everybody was like excited in my hometown where I lived in Pinckney. They said on the show I worked in hell and lived in hell, but really it was Pinckney, Michigan. Anyway, so they had an auction at one point to have dinner with Erik, like Survivor Erik, and a local businessman donated a bunch of money to have dinner with me at Zuki Lake Tavern. And so we were at this tavern with him and his family, like his extended family, and then a few of his like co-workers from his company were there. And in the middle of dinner, he pitched this crazy idea that he had to know if it would work, and I want to get your guys' opinions on this. And I don't know, we won't have to like take 2 hours or like an hour even on this. Like, I just want to know some of your guys' thoughts on this. So the idea is that if everybody's on Survivor and you're there for 3 days before the first vote, what if everybody shares who they are, their background, how much they make, what they do for a living, and then everybody as a group decides who should be voted out in what order based on need, based on personal need. And he was saying, this is a great idea. Why don't they ever do this on the show? Why don't they have like this socialist view of like need? And it's this weird conversation because it never had come up before in any other like Survivor fan talks or anything up to that point. So that was the idea, and we talked about it for like a good like 2 hours over dinner. This idea, and I just want to know your guys' thoughts on it, and especially like looking at like past seasons with people. Like, I just never thought this would work. Like, when I was talking to him, I was trying to explain to him, like, this would never work. Like, ever. Like, this is such a, like, insane idea. Like, so that's the idea. I'm going to drink some wine.
I love that you didn't tell us until right now.
Okay, good.
I love that we were kind of going in brand new to this. This is good. I have a lot to say.
Yeah, I didn't want to, like, I kept telling you guys before, for people watching this, I was like, I'm not going to tell you guys the idea. It's just really weird. It's kind of out of left field. I didn't want to reveal it until you guys were here because I wanted to get your, like, initial takes on this.
Well, what's interesting, I guess, how much 40 can we talk? But what's interesting is, like, this normally comes up later in the game, but doesn't come up super early in the game. Where later in the game, it's always like, we should vote. Mike White's never going to win because he's already got millions of dollars. Right. So Nick Wilson's going to beat him every time. And, Brad Culpepper doesn't beat Sarah. And I think Sarah played a better game. But I do think some of that had to do with money. So I think it comes up later. Yeah. But people try not to bring it up too much early. Trying to think on fans' favorite. You didn't really have anybody who was like outwardly wealthy on your team, right?
No, I don't think so. No. And that's the thing that it's so weird to me that this guy brought it up like first day. He's like, first day, everybody decide this, who's going home. And it's like, it goes against like the core of when you're cast. Like everybody's dying to get on this show in the first place. And I'm trying to,
regardless of how much money they have.
Yeah, and I'm like trying to tell them this. I'm like, dude, it doesn't matter. Like the people that they've cast, like they have this fire. Like they've gone through like overwhelming odds just to be there. Like, and they have this like team of producers telling them like fight for every single place. And it's like this. Like I'm trying to explain this to him, and he can't get it. This business owner guy is super intelligent. Like runs a successful business in the community, and he's just like. Why? Why do you guys like eat each other alive? Why does it become Lord of the Flies? And I'm like it's cutting to like the core of like this whole thing in the first place. So,
wow.
I just like to imagine you get out there and let's say you're a millionaire already, and you're a millionaire, and you get out there, and the first thing that somebody asks you is how much money do you have, and you say you have $1 million, so they vote you out. They're like, okay, well, you're going to get voted out first. Mm-hmm. Like you said, how much effort went into getting on that show in the first place? Like somebody like David Sampson, who goes home first anyway. I mean, David Sampson, like, he worked his ass off to get on that show. He wanted to play so bad.
Yeah.
And, it would never work because the rich people would get too grumpy about it, and they would try to overthrow the poor people.
Well, like him, like, so perfect example, like David, like he's been fighting to get on this show, and then imagine like day 2 or 3, like there's some, like this conversation happens, and somebody's like, you're going to go second. We're going to vote you off second because you don't need the money. Like, you don't need the money as bad as Dreams. Like, maybe Dreams is cast on this season, and Dreams is living out of his car because that's kind of his story. Like, his story was kind of, he came from a rough background, and he didn't have everything. Like, he wouldn't take that lying down.
And then you think about, I think about Jessica Lewis and so many people who lie about their profession.
Yeah.
I think she was a lawyer and said that she was a photographer. There are so many people who have professions that are assumed to make a lot of money.
Yeah.
And I don't know either of your financial situations, regardless of your jobs.
Yeah.
So I think people also will just make an assumption that someone has a lot of money, even though in reality, maybe they're just in law school, or maybe they're getting a switch out of being a lawyer. So there's that whole element too of just assuming.
Right.
As somebody who hangs out with Bradley, who is now, I think, classified as a lawyer, a lot, we hang out on Taco Tuesdays when tacos are insanely cheap and margaritas are cheap, and on like days where you can find a happy hour. Like that's when we're not going to bars. Like he's a lawyer, but he's trying to spend $5 like when he goes out to eat. He's not trying to go crazy. So I do think there's something with the profession. Plus you get to a point where you're trying to convince people you're poorer or harder, having a harder life than everybody else, which starts to become difficult. Because I mean, even Nick Wilson, he had the whole story about his mother with heroin. But he's also a lawyer, so where does he fit into this? Where is his need compared to somebody like Carl, who's a truck driver with 2 daughters, and living in Texas?
Mm-hmm.
Right. It's so subjective.
David vs. Goliath is a really good season to have just happened for this.
Yes.
I remember during the season premiere of that, I think they talked to Angelina and Allison, who I can't remember if she was still in school or just on her way to becoming an oncologist. She said, no, I'm no Goliath. I don't want that.
Right.
People actively hide that. And I'm again, I don't know anything about how much money Allison makes or doesn't make.
Right.
So
it's like
people are so afraid of the idea of making money on Survivor.
Yeah, it's like the perception of it. It's like the perception of success, or the perception of like, oh, you don't need it, or you don't have to have it. Like, I think, what is it, Shirin? Shirin was like a self-made millionaire by some age. Like that came up during the show, like later. But it's like, I just could never see this conversation like happening, because the people who want it to happen like wouldn't probably even think about it. But then the people who the people who are well off, like they wouldn't want to have this conversation at all, because they're trying to win the game and play the game. It goes against also the gamemanship of it. Like, it's like if you show up to play a game and it's like you deserve to win because of what you get at the end. Like it's so strange to me. Like the whole thing blew me away when this guy said this, and then his family was like had these counter arguments and all this other stuff, and I'm like I'm trying to put out all these fires, but I'm doing a really poor job of explaining it to them, and they're just like, no, but it would be the best. Everybody would get something. It would be a perfect scenario. And I'm like, it just wouldn't happen. Like, it's not.
And this was like 21-year-old Erik, right? Like this was like right after you got back from so you're like expecting like, hey, I just had this cool Survivor experience. They're gonna ask me about the immunity necklace and all that fun stuff. Yes. And instead you get let off with this, where it's like, think about the game in a completely different sense than the way that the game is actually played. Yeah, like and it was weird too because they were fans. Some people were fans, but they weren't. Especially the business owner, I think he just did it to like he wanted to donate the money because it was to a good cause. And then when he thought about Survivor, he came at it from this whole other angle, and I thought to myself, like, he probably didn't watch the show. Like, he doesn't understand, like, the core concept of, like, competition in the show, and, like... And I would be curious, sorry, Alexa, I would be curious if you listed out the richest people who have ever played Survivor when they walked onto the island. The richest people when they walked onto the island. Yeah. I think that the average placement is probably like 7th place. And I'm saying that based on Russell Hantz, Mike White, Cliff Robinson, who even did pretty well, Grant. He did well back on Redemption Island, if anybody remembers that he was on Redemption Island. Scott Pollard did very, very well.
Oh, do you mention the baseball player?
Jeff Kent.
Jeff Kent.
Yeah.
He was 10th place, I believe. So you have like a really high amount. Like just from Jeff Kent alone, Jeff Kent is the richest person to ever play Survivor. He's worth hundreds of millions of dollars for playing baseball. And he made it all the way to 10th place and goes home in a crazy tribal council that wasn't like, oh, we need to get rid of Jeff because he's too wealthy or anything like that. It was, we're out of people to vote out. And he goes home. I think there was idle play. I forget exactly how the episode went. I believe there was idle play.
It was like a non-issue is what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't think of unless if you exclude the final tribal council, when even then it's not even too often explicitly mentioned. I can't think of a time where someone was voted out because they either had money or did not have money.
I think
in final tribal that gets a little murkier, but
the only issue that seems to come up is who won, like who won the million, and that's like that's more of a like. It's ingrained in Survivor history and like Survivor gameplay, and not necessarily like lifestyle choice, like income based. Like if you won the million, people look at you with a target like, oh, that's a winner. Like they should not get to the end again because they've already won. Like that's the target there. It has nothing to do with the fact that they won $1 million. I don't think.
And they still give it to Sandra over Russell, even though Russell had never won because they wanted to give it to Sandra.
Yeah.
Russell still gets 0 votes, even sitting against 2 millionaires, which everybody assumed at that time they're not going to have a 2-time winner. Best thing you can do is go to the end with winners, and you'll win if you're a non-winner. And still Russell didn't do it. So I don't know. I think that the Mike White thing did have an effect on it. I'm not saying that Nick didn't play a great game, but I do think that Mike White, his fame, did have some sort of effect on it. I think that there's been other instances, maybe getting near the finale, where it might have an impact. I can't think of specific moments, but like sometimes it's like, we don't want that person to. They already had their chance. I remember that was like a thing early on. I mean, even Gary Hogaboom, they wanted to get him out once like if they would have found out that he was a football player, they were ready to vote him out on the spot. So that actually fits with what you're talking about. But when they didn't know, they thought he was just Gary the landscaper. They loved him. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, okay, you guys have said, like, this was actually really quick in terms of, like, you guys already were just like, no, this is a non-issue. Okay, so.
Go ahead.
That's what it was. I was with a group of people that I don't think honestly watched the show.
It brings up a really interesting, political is really the wrong word, but like political kind
of classism
and classism. Yeah, that's a good word.
Yeah, it's weird, and it was weird that he brought that up too, because I was thinking like after I left that dinner, I was on my way home, and I got home and I was thinking about it, and I was like, that was really weird, and also that was just like a whole different mindset about Survivor, and I started to compare like Survivor with capitalism. And what this guy was talking about with socialism, and I was like, that's kind of what I'm seeing here, is that Survivor is like I don't think it's an analogy, I think it's like a metaphor for our own country, in that it involves, money and votes. Like there's this very democratic process of who wins and who loses. So it's really odd. Like after that, I walked away from it with like this deeper thing that I was like, okay, I'm kind of grateful I went to that, and I felt like a fool for like a little bit. Because it does seem like a metaphor for our society. I think that's kind of what Mark Burnett's idea was, or his initial concept was.
Yeah, the American dream being the whole, like, you know, if you do it, if you work hard, you'll get there and you'll win. And now you watch Survivor, they try to be like big moves and find idols and do all that. And, you know, that's how you're going to end up winning. I think it's funny. They tried it one time in Fiji where they had the haves versus have-nots.
Yeah.
And the have-nots definitely were mad at the haves, but then at the same time, you can't do anything about it because you're on Survivor, and that's just a ridiculous twist. And then,
right.
I don't know if you saw the 40 News today, but they're doing something with currency. So it's funny that we're talking about this on that exact day.
Mm-hmm.
Did you see that?
I hear 40 News every minute. Like, it's crazy.
It's consistently changing.
Someone's either pranking everybody or someone's just, like, leaking. Like, someone's just like, here you go. This is what's happening.
Hopefully they'll change it in the editing room so that it doesn't look like they actually made it. But there's something with currency.
Huh.
You know, so it'll be interesting to see if people who use this currency early, like, end up going further than the people who don't. I mean, a good way to look at this, and it would have been interesting to hear this guy's take after like a blood versus water type season, because when you have your loved one, that's almost like having currency on the island. And in the first blood versus water, the pairings actually picked off the singles.
Right.
Until Natalie Anderson was able to pretty much just convince all of them one way. And then in the next version, it was the singles who picked off the pairs. So it's pretty interesting how you could go either way, and it actually has worked out both ways in seasons where you could say that somebody's coming in or is playing the game wealthier than somebody else because they have their loved one further on.
Yeah. Interesting. When you said currency, I was just thinking like, oh crap, it's Pirate Master. It's going to be Pirate Master all over again if you ever saw that show. Okay, so Pirate Master was God. I'm pretty sure it was called Pirate Master. It was right around the time of Micronesia, and I thought that Pirate Master was going to replace Survivor because there was all these rumors online about Survivor's ending at 16, which is laughable now.
That's funny.
I'm so old. And so they thought 16 was going to be the end of it, and Pirate Master was going to be the new show. And Pirate Master, you won doubloons, like these coins, and that's how you determine who wins at the end. Like, you win currency over time over the course of the show, and you can gamble with people on the pirate ship and like for your coins and stuff. So it was kind of like you just brought up currency, and I'm like, oh shit, they're bringing in Pirate Master again.
I think it's that general concept. So Phil, correct me. I think everyone is starting off with the same amount. So actually, this guy who talked to you was curious about whether Survivor is, you know, a microcosm of capitalism versus socialism.
Yeah.
I guess everyone's starting off with the same amount. I mean, obviously that's fair. That's going to make sense. And then throughout the season, they'll have opportunities to purchase either rewards or comfort items or advantages. And I think the amount, everything is kind of TBD in terms of cadence. But those who are on the edge of extinction also will be able to purchase or gift.
Interesting.
It's something similar to that.
So there's Bitcoin, and now there's 40 coin. It's a
Probst bucks.
Probst bucks.
Probst bucks. I like that. That's a good name.
I can't take the credit. I found that on the internet.
I
never came up with that. Good job.
I can whip up some Photoshop and come up with a Probst bucks with his face.
Oh, that
on
would
it.
be good.
Dabadoodles. That's what I need.
Yeah. Anyway, weird.
No, I do think it's an interesting talk because at the time when this was first coming up, like, it's something that you're sitting there going, it's crazy. And even this whole conversation, we're saying there's no way that would ever work. And now people are starting with, I think they're trying to make it like the auction throughout the season, but people are starting with a certain amount of money. That's bizarre. Crazy. Because Survivor's supposed to be like, you're stripped down to nothing. You were pirate ship. You were shipwrecked on an island.
Right.
You know?
Right.
So, 40's going to be something.
Every day. Poor 39. Like, come on.
I know.
It doesn't exist, guys. It doesn't exist.
Their season apparently is happening.
Yeah.
I can't wait till when 8 o'clock on Wednesday nights in the fall, it's just that screen with like the blue, green, and red line.
Yeah.
And it just makes that constant tone noise for an hour, and then it cuts to whatever show's supposed to be on after Survivor.
Yeah.
Because they're not editing 39, they're just editing 40.
All right. Cool. Well, thanks you guys for at least checking me here, and I need to dig that guy up and figure out if he'll come on, because I want to know what he's thinking, because it was so weird, too, because I was in a group of... Sorry, last comment about this. I was in a group of people, and they're all telling me, like, no, this is a great idea, and I'm, like, the only person, like, fighting for, like, this is not how it works. This is insane. I feel stupid arguing this, but I feel insane. So it's good that you guys are here, and hopefully someone in the comments is like, yeah, who is that guy? That doesn't make any sense.
I would really like to hear the flip side. I would really like to hear what their arguments are for it.
Right.
Because the three of us are just saying this is absurd, but I would really love to hear the other side of it.
So we have the benefit of now I can like look back on it, and I've assessed it over all the years and thought about it, but it was like the main arguments were it'll benefit everybody, everybody wins, everybody gets what they want in terms of like the millionaire gets some money and the experience, but he doesn't take money away from maybe the single mom who deserves more money or is having a tougher life or a tougher go of it. Mm-hmm. She deserves this. That was really the big thing, but the thing that it didn't take into account was the struggle just to get on the show and the idea of, it's a game. Like, the people there are here to play a game. So there has to be some element of competitiveness for everybody that's involved. And also the deck stacking that casting does. Like, casting doesn't cast people that are just going to agree to stuff. I think the only season where that kind of happened was One World. Like, One World, like, we really wanted to see people at the final five, like, eat each other alive. And they just kind of, like, I think Christina Cha was one of them, who was just like, whatever. Like, Kim should win. Mm-hmm. She deserves to win. And Probst was, like, pecking her, like, do something, fight for yourself, do something, and they wouldn't. So, I think their arguments all just kind of fell apart in time after I learned more about it.
Well, find that guy and put him back on.
I'd love to talk to him.
This channel.
Yeah. The idea of deserving is so arbitrary.
Yeah.
And you hear that a lot, I guess, in final tribal speeches. Just who deserves this more? And I think people absolutely take out of game factors into context. I think, like, for example, you see in a final tribal, you'll see kind of the older woman. People won't give her the respect that they'll maybe give to a different archetype. But then on the flip side, people vote for how they did in the game, just within the microcosm of the game. So deserving is just so arbitrary.
I know.
And it's really tough too, because like if you can be really rich and come from a really wealthy place. Like, you can just be born into like a wealthy home. But then you can also be somebody who by 35 has made yourself, like you were saying with Shirin, she makes herself into a self-made millionaire by 30 or whatever her age was, and you do that on your own. So like, Shirin's got all this money, but are we really going to say that she's not as deserving? She's not deserving because she has that money when she worked her way to get that. Like, there's such a difference. Right. Some people are born with more, some people are born with less, some people work their way up, some people work their way down. It's really hard to like justify that. Like, how do we determine, like, right now, there could be people, I just think of like, Angelina or something. Like, she's married to the military guy, she went to Stanford, she's got all of that, she just bought a house in San Diego, she's got all this great stuff going for her. But like, where she was born and where she is, like, how do you compare that to somebody else?
Yeah.
Like, you just don't know, because you don't know the whole entire story, so you're never going to get every perspective you need to really sit down and say, no, that person's not deserving or that person is deserving. Because Angelina might have waked her way right into Stanford and then worked her way into this life she's living for herself.
So it's so subjective, and it's so like judgmental in a way. I feel like 3 days isn't even enough time to like fuss all that out. So
plus, what if you hate the poorest person on the island? What if you don't want to deal with that?
Right.
Yeah, I think a lot of times it'll come into personal preference. I think, because you also hear all the time that people vote for who they like in the end.
Yeah,
and so I think if I connect with somebody who comes from money or doesn't, I'm going to have that automatic bias towards that person.
Right. It like overrides all of it. Yeah. Anyway, I'm out of wine.
I'm out of water.
Okay. You're drinking out of water out of that Solo cup. Water.
Out of the red Solo cup.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
I swear.
Okay. Well, cool. Thanks, you guys. I'll try and dig that guy up, and just thank you. Thanks for taking the time.
Yeah, thanks for having us on. This was fun. And if you ever find that guy, make sure to tell us.
Gotta find that guy. Gotta find that guy. All right, bye, you guys.
Bye-bye.